Hi there, Alex here at mixinglessons.com. In this video, we're going to talk about how loud you should record your signals. So let's say you're recording a vocal take with a microphone, or maybe you're recording an acoustic guitar with a microphone, or perhaps you're plugging a bass guitar or an electric guitar directly into your interface. Whatever it is you're recording, you're going to need to set an optimum level to record at. You can't record too quietly because if you do, you can get a very noisy signal. You can't record too loudly, or you might introduce distortion or clipping into your signal. And so in this video, we'll talk about how to find the optimum level to record at. Before we get started, if you record and mix music, then I've got 3 PDF guides that I think you'll find really useful to have access to in your studio. I've got an EQ cheat sheet, a compression cheat sheet, and a vocal recording guide. And you can get all 3 completely free by heading over to mixinglessons.com/free-downloads. Okay, so when it comes to setting the levels that we're going to record at, we would generally say that we are looking to achieve a high signal to noise ratio. Now, what does that mean? Well, the signal part refers to whatever it is that we're recording, so the vocals or the acoustic guitar or the drum kit, whatever it may be. And then the noise part broadly refers to anything that you don't want to be able to hear in the recording. But more specifically, something to be aware of is that all electronic equipment has some inherent noise. So if you were to turn the gain up really loud on your audio interface, you would hear some noise. So there is this low-level noise that occurs in the equipment that we're using to record. You might sometimes hear the term noise floor, and that refers to the combination of all of the internal noise of all of the equipment that we're using to record. And so what we want to do is we want to get our signals high enough above this noise, because if we recorded too low, we would be close to that noise, and so you could then potentially hear that in your recordings. Now, one piece of advice that you might hear is that to achieve a high signal to noise ratio, you should record as loudly as you can without the signal clipping. So you would set your level so that the signal that you're recording is peaking just below 0. Now, in the days of analog recording, that was good advice and that was sort of a best practice. But nowadays, with modern digital recording, there are a couple of reasons why. First of all, that's maybe not necessary, and secondly, that's also possibly bad advice. Now, in the days of analog recording, people would record through multiple pieces of analog equipment, and all of that analog equipment would have a much higher noise floor than the kind of noise that we associate with the kind of equipment that we record with today. And so it was necessary to record at louder levels to achieve that high signal to noise ratio. But nowadays, with digital recording equipment, you really don't have to get that loud to get above the level of the noise. You can actually get a good signal to noise ratio at lower levels. And there are also a couple of drawbacks to be aware of when it comes to recording really loudly with digital recording equipment. With analog recording, if you were recording right up to 0, there was actually still quite a lot of headroom beyond 0. There was still room to get louder past 0 if you needed to. So if you were recording a singer, for example, and they got a little bit louder unexpectedly, even though you were recording right up to 0, there was still some headroom past that to accommodate for that increase in level. Whereas with digital, if you're recording close to 0 and there's a level increase, there's no headroom to accommodate for that. 0 is the upper limit, and it's a hard limit. There's nothing past that. So if whoever you're recording gets louder, unfortunately, what will happen is the signal will clip. You will potentially introduce digital distortion into the recording, and essentially that take can't be used. So there's a bit of a risk involved in recording really loud signals in the digital domain that didn't exist in the analog domain. Something else to consider is that with analog, if you recorded really loud signals, it could actually sound quite desirable. So you could drive things into saturation and that could sound really good. With digital, there's no desirable characteristics to be achieved by recording at louder levels. The sound's not going to change. And so for those reasons, I don't think that the advice of recording the signal as loud as you can, but keeping it below clipping, is necessarily good advice when it comes to modern digital recording. So all of that considered, I think it's beneficial to work with more conservative levels when you're working in a digital system. So all of that said, what level should we aim to record at? Well, personally, I aim for my signals to peak no higher than about minus 18 decibels. Generally, this is loud enough to get the signal well above the noise floor and to achieve an ample signal-to-noise ratio, but it also leaves some headroom to accommodate any unexpected increases in level should they happen. Now, you might hear people suggest other levels to record to. Quite often you'll hear people suggest minus 10, for example. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but really the thing to take away from this is to record at more conservative levels and to understand that it's not really necessary to record just below the level of clipping or to record the loudest signal that you possibly can. And actually there's a bit of a risk involved in doing that. So I hope you found this useful. Don't forget to go over to mixinglessons.com/free-downloads and get that free EQ cheat sheet, that free compression cheat sheet, and that free vocal recording guide. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.